All my other ones are cut off by my name.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Denver Derby Party. Hi, I'm Chris Morris, Master Distiller at Woodford Reserve.
And I'm Elizabeth McCall, the Assistant Master Distiller for Woodford Reserve.
Elizabeth, I want to thank you all for inviting us to your party. We understand Denver has the second biggest Derby party in the world outside of Kentucky.
Yeah, I have seen pictures and video, and it's outrageous and looks like a really good time. So I would say I hope to see you there, but I don't know. You know, it happens the same time I'm doing Churchill Downs stuff. So,
yes.
You know.
And speaking of Churchill Downs, you know, Woodford Reserve has been the official bourbon of Churchill Downs and the Kentucky Derby for 21 years now. Not only are we the official bourbon, we're the one and only official bourbon. Never before in 125 years had Churchill Downs endorsed a bourbon until they did Woodford Reserve. So we've had a great partnership with the track, with the Derby, and of course, these last, counting this year, we're in our third year of being the presenting sponsor of the Kentucky Derby. And I never forget the late John Asher, who of course was the voice in the face of Churchill Downs, who unfortunately passed away the other year. He told me, Chris, Woodford Reserve is now emblazoned in Derby history forever. These Derbies will be the Derby presented by Woodford Reserve. And I thought that was so cool. He had just a neat way of looking at it. So for 20 years, and for the past 4 years, Elizabeth has been with me at the track, making mint juleps, making Woodford Spires, having a lot of fun. And this is our 5th year together, our 21st year, and we're not at the track. We're with you all via the internet, which is so cool. So why did Churchill Downs choose us? Because we're the best bourbon in the world, the finest bourbon in the world. And they simply wanted to be associated with us because we really reflected the quality, the contemporary, the history, the heritage, all going to roll up into Woodford Reserve was like the Derby. It's fun, it's sociable, it's dressy, it's real. So that's why they chose us, because we really were the partner they were looking for. And so we're so proud of our long, now 21-year relationship with Churchill Downs. That's just tremendous. And this is also the 21st year for what, Elizabeth?
Our Derby bottle. So I hope that everybody rushes out to get one because it's a very special bottle, and I think it's even more special this year. It does actually have the May 2nd date on it, which is kind of cool. I mean, it's kind of bittersweet, but very cool. And also, we have switched up artists this year, and we have Richard Sullivan, another Louisville native, who has done a beautiful watercolor for the bottle, and I just think it's absolutely stunning this year. And yes, I mean, this is the 21st year that we've had the Derby bottle. Since 1999, I don't even want to talk about how old I was in 1999, but you were there.
Yes, I was.
For doing all those sorts of things. But we're really excited about it, and I think it's a really special collector's item for this year in particular, for Derby 146.
I really think so, Elizabeth. Having that date, which all had the date on them, it's going to be really collectible. You know, last year, you remember there was a charity auction in Kentucky, in Louisville, and we scrapped up between the Woodford Reserve team and some private collectors. We got all 20 bottles in a charity auction for Gilda's Club. And that 20 bottle set went for $20,000. I'll never forget that. So each bottle was $1,000.
That is amazing.
That was a really, really cool. And of course, I signed all of them here that evening, which is because I'm sure you were off doing something else on behalf of the brand. So I signed them all, and it was a very special evening. But you know what's funny? You know, both Elizabeth and I will hear people say, oh, that Derby bottle, the whiskey in that was really good. I like it better than your regular Woodford Reserve. That Derby whiskey is so good. It's the same bourbon that we have in our core. It's our core product. It is Woodford Reserve. The whiskey's not different, just the bottle is. It's a beautiful commemorative bottle. And this is the whiskey that Churchill Downs fell in love with. I hope everybody fell in love with Woodford Reserve 21 years ago. Now, this is a spectacular whiskey. You'd expect Elizabeth and I to say it, hey, but it's true. Of course it's true. It's the finest bourbon. How do we know it's the finest bourbon? This bourbon has won the top award in every competition known to the International Spirits Challenge, International Wine and Spirits Competition, World Spirits Competition. Every competition, this has won the top award at least once. So it's like winning the Derby, the Preakness, the Belmont, the Super Bowl, you name it. It's won everything. So we have validation that this is the finest bourbon in the world. And of course, why? Because it tastes great. And also it looks great.
Mm-hmm.
The creator, the inspiration for Woodford Reserve came from our late chairman, Owsley Brown II, and his successor are now another wonderful retiree, our CEO, Paul Vargas. And people drink with their eyes. So when you have a beautiful package like Woodford Reserve, it will introduce people like, I'm going to try that. It looks good. And that was on purpose. This bottle changed the industry. Before then, bottles were, as I like to say, were bluegrass and burlap and banjos. They were so country looking, so old-fashioned Kentucky. And this is classic and yet contemporary at the same time. So the package really shook up the industry, but it was the whiskey inside that wins people over. Because a pretty package is not going to sell the next time the whiskey is good. And we know that Woodford Reserve is complexity and balance. This glass of whiskey has over 200 flavor compounds, all created naturally. There's not an artificial flavor. There's nothing added to Woodford Reserve. It's 100% natural, and it's very simple. It's corn, rye, barley, limestone water, our unique Woodford Reserve yeast, about a week of fermentation, wonderful distillation, and then a number of years in a unique Woodford Reserve white oak barrel. So not that many components, but Elizabeth and I put them together that make this whiskey so special. And because it's complex, each of us is going to find something in it we like. And you might note, hey, what's food? And another person next to you might say, ooh, it's spicy. Or, man, there's a rain character in here. I get sweet aromatics. Oh, what about those wood notes? So when you're complex and balanced, it's hard for Elizabeth and I to tell you what you're nosing and tasting because this whiskey is personal. You find in it what you want. So this is one of the secrets to the success of Woodford Reserve. It pleases everybody because they find in it, with over 200 options, the flavors they want. So I'm not even going to tell you what I think you'll taste. I'll tell you, and Elizabeth will tell you what we taste, but not going to go to tell you what you taste.
Exactly.
And I'll tell you what, we've just been on a Churchill Downs Woodford Reserve program making mint juleps. And so we had a lot of mint in our noses. And I've gone right to sweet aromatics.
Oh, yeah.
Sweet notes.
That's what I was getting. Lots of vanilla and just.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what I love about Woodford Reserve and our bourbon and the approach is just that it's simple. I mean, it's complex, but we don't want to make it intimidating. We want it to be as easy and enjoyable for anyone. So you don't have to be a connoisseur to enjoy this. It's just so good.
No, this is a whiskey for everybody. It sure is. Now,
Yeah.
we launched Woodford Reserve in 1996. 1999, we became the official bourbon of Kentucky Derby. And that's all we had for 15 years, this great bourbon. And we built it into the #1 selling super premium Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey in the world. And 15 years ago, we thought it was time to introduce a new product, which we're going to hold for last today. And then 2 years later, we introduced another new expression of Woodford Reserve to fulfill our promise of showcasing flavor. And what was that, Elizabeth?
We had the Woodford Reserve Rye that we introduced. And one more thing on the bourbon I just thought of as I was nosing it. My dad was saying the other day, he went out and bought his quarantine bottle of Woodford, and he said, it's just so good. I love to sit down, and it just always delivers. And I was like, Dad, that's right. And that's why I'm your daughter, and you raised me well. He's a smart man. But we've got the Woodford Reserve Rye here, and I've got my beautiful bottle with the green label. And again, I'm just going to nose this sample along with you all. But our Woodford Reserve Rye, we introduced it in 2015. And this was one that people were not maybe the kindest when we first released it. They heard our grain recipe, which is 53% rye, 33% corn, and 14% malted barley. And they thought, that's not a rye whiskey, that doesn't seem right. And that's because what they were familiar with were ryes that were all 100%, 95% rye. And they just weren't seeing ryes that were made in such a traditional way and actually historically accurate pre-prohibition style rye. So with our grain recipe, there is enough room in there for enough of the malted barley. And malted barley is where we get our enzymes. And enzymes, I know we're not going to go too deep in the weeds with this, but enzymes are what take those big starch molecules and break it down and make it so that our yeast can consume those sugars and make them into fermentable sugars. And so it's really important that you have them in there. But also, 14% malted barley gives complexity of flavor along with the amount of corn we have in there. And so when you taste Woodford Reserve Rye, it's one that can truly be enjoyed just neat or on the rock, as you see it here. I mean, it has on the nose. I mean, this is one that really, it is, I've been falling in love with it. And it's what I love to have a Manhattan made with. It's my personal favorite. But it has so much going on. There's citrus notes, and there's honey and lemon, and you really can't go wrong with it. But it's spice forward, so it's out of balance, where we just came from our bourbon, very imbalanced, rye, out of balance, spice forward. More of those baking spices, but just not overly sweet. You said it before, Chris, that it is a rye whiskey for bourbon drinkers. So it's something that is very easy to like.
Exactly right. When I was developing the rye, I would tell people, I don't like rye whiskey. I don't like the rye whiskey out there. I'm not a rye whiskey drinker. I'm from Kentucky. I'm a bourbon drinker. So when I make a rye whiskey, it's going to be a rye whiskey I like, and it's going to be very bourbon-like. So this is the rye whiskey, as we hear, as Elizabeth said, from many of you all. This is rye whiskey that bourbon drinkers like because it's Woodford Rye. And again, as Elizabeth said, it has the wonderful spice notes, but it's still Woodford. It has fruit character, wood, grain, and we heard the sweet aromatic notes are so beautiful, more of a honey character. So what a nice, wonderful whiskey. And you can enjoy it, can't you, Elizabeth, just like you do our bourbon in any classic cocktail.
Exactly. I mean, it goes in any classic cocktail, and you switch up what ingredients you're putting into the cocktail based on the base spirit, or just keep the ingredients the same, change your base spirit, change the cocktail.
Exactly right. So enjoy a Woodford Rye Manhattan, a Woodford Bourbon Manhattan, and hey, how about a Woodford Double Oaked Manhattan? All right. This is the brand expression we launched in the 15th year. After we've established the bourbon as the world's finest bourbon, we felt confident that people would appreciate a new release of Woodford Reserve. Now, this is a bourbon. It's not only a bourbon, it is this bourbon finished in a second barrel. So Double Oak starts as our classic Woodford Reserve. Nothing else. The whiskey that's in that beautiful Derby bottle. Nothing else. Same age, same everything. It's classic Woodford Reserve. But we finish it in a second barrel. Now, I'm not claiming that we created finishing, because we certainly didn't. That goes back generations and really goes back to the Scotch whiskey industry. where you would take a whiskey that's been matured, probably in a used bourbon barrel for 10 or so years, and then transfer it to a second barrel to finish. And the second barrel had something in it before that will impact the original whiskey. A port barrel, a sherry barrel, a Madeira drum, you name it, the second barrel always had a prior use. And that wasn't good enough for Woodford Reserve. We don't want to use a barrel that someone else had used because we have our own barrel cooperage, don't we, Elizabeth? We make our own barrels. For 75 years, we have been making barrels. And having your own cooperage is a great resource. So let's make a finishing barrel that's brand new, used it before, and let's make it specifically to finish Woodford Reserve bourbon in. No one had ever done that. So this is a unique whiskey, the first of its kind. Whiskey finished in a barrel made specifically for the finish. Now, the double oak barrel is extraordinary. It is the most heavily toasted barrel in the industry. It is applying heat to the interior of the barrel without burning the barrel. So you can toast for a long time. You know, you can't toast via charring for much more than a minute because the barrel's burning up. We can toast without burning the barrel through our special techniques for 40 minutes. This is a 40-minute toast and a 5-second char barrel. We put the fully matured Woodford Reserve in the second barrel at about 95 to 98 proof. It's extremely low entry proof. And it's that second barrel for approximately 1 year. It's a finish. It's a finish. And we will batch those barrels together and present it like we did our rye and like we do our bourbon at 90.4 proof. So when you say it's dark or well, it's much darker, it must be a much higher proof. It's not the same proof as our other products. It's so soft and smooth, it must be a lower proof. No, it's the same proof as our other products. Why is it so smooth? That toasted barrel gives it natural wood sugar. Why is it so dark? The natural wood sugar. This is still a Kentucky straight bourbon because it's never anything other than new hard oak. Even Beasley likes it.
He does. He just wanted to say hi.
So, as opposed to the bourbon, well, I said, I'm not going to tell you what you nose and taste because of the balance and complexity of our bourbon. I'll tell you what you nose and taste, and Elizabeth can as well. This is all about sweet aromatics. It's out of balance, like the rye is spicy, out of balance. This is spicy, out of balance on the sweet side by design.
Now, this is one that I jokingly say is the most friendly Kentucky hello you'll ever get from a bourbon whiskey. It's just so enjoyable and it's very approachable. You know, it's just like, yeah, come hang out with me.
Yeah. And I love Elizabeth's term for this. It's the gateway bourbon. What do you mean by that?
It is a gateway bourbon. This is one actually that when I first started to actually enjoy bourbon, neat or on the rocks, this is what I stepped into that brave world, if you want to call it that, with. Double oaked just allowed me to really enjoy it. I had it on the rocks with a little twist of lemon, and it was so enjoyable. And I thought, okay, I have found my partner that I can sit down and just enjoy as it is and as it's presented. Because, you know, sometimes I think that whiskey can be intimidating. There are many people out there watching all over the world right now who may not have ever experienced some of our whiskeys. And I think I always tell people, try double oaked. It's going to be very friendly and very welcoming and a great way to start out enjoying whiskey just as is. But you did mention something really good, Chris, is that these are all presented at 90.4 proof. So yes. All you're tasting is one little thing that we've changed. And
going back to the gateway bourbon, everybody has a sweet tooth. Everybody likes a dessert, whether it's really sweet or still a more subtle sweetness. But we all like a little bit of sugar. And this is all about butterscotch, caramel, maple syrup, dark chocolate, milk chocolate, honey. This is a sweet bomb, absolutely natural. But of course, it's still Woodford Reserve. So as you get into the glass and have a sip, you're going to find fruit. You're going to find spice, wood, and grain character. But they've just been layered over with this wonderful finish from that second barrel. Exactly. And you know,
when I did sip it, so I haven't been sipping because I'm expecting a little one. Whenever I get to taste this again, a couple months, I always think of chocolate chip cookies. And so I did make my double of chocolate chip cookies because it's got those brown sugar and the vanilla and the butteriness. It's so, so good. Such a great finish.
And of course, I thought it would just be enjoyed neat or on the rocks. And we know people are making great cocktails with it. We'll see great accounts making cocktails. We even used it in the Derby $141,000 mint julep program, which is going to play later today on NBC. The remake of the replay, I guess is the term, of the American Pharaohs race to the Triple Crown, and we made our $1,000 mint julep with double oaked.
Yep, and it was delicious. They put that pecan orgeat in there.
Yes.
Very, very good.
Well, Elizabeth and I have taken us through our three core expressions that we hope everybody is familiar with: our bourbon, our rye, and our double oaked. And now we have a special guest who's going to join us. And I hope you like music, and I hope you like music from Kentucky, because joining us is Ben Soleil. Ben?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for
Ben.
walking us through those bourbons. How y'all doing?
We're great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm here in Louisville at my studio, just out back of my house, and just hanging out, in a very different sort of derby sort of hang, but still nonetheless enjoying being with family and friends, even if it's online.
Great.
Yeah. Well, I've been working with you all for a long time. One of the things I appreciate is not only do you spend so much time on the artistry and craft of bourbon, but you also consider the experience that surrounds it. I mean, the food and the environment, as well as the music. And that's been something that I've been lucky enough to offer for you all, with whether it's my version of my old Kentucky home or playing shows by the river at the old Lobro and Graham Distillery there in Versailles. I mean, it's just, from bottom to top, Woodford Reserve just stays classy, but also inclusive. And I really appreciate that. As somebody who's traveled all over the world, when I was playing a show in India at a small, club there, people were like, "Oh, Kentucky, we love Kentucky. We love horses. We have basketball, all these things. Which bourbon should we try?" I would just say, like, well, start with Woodford. Start with Woodford, and it never failed me. They would continue to innovate from there, and change and add flavors in their own way. I once had a curry infused Woodford cocktail in India, which was wild to taste. I'm sure you all can just imagine that on your tongues right now.
Oh, that sounds spicy. Whew.
It does sound spicy, but their curries there are fresher and more diverse than the curries that we generally get here in America. So there are sweet curries, that add to the sweetness, and this was one of those. It was a special experience, but I'm just so grateful to have had this kind of storytelling partnership with you all. I mean, I've even got this cool bottle that you all so generously signed for me. This is my special keepsake from the show that we did there at the distillery. And, it's just one of those things. I'll always keep it. It's a special thing, and you all are artists in your own right. So really, really happy to be able to share my music with that.
Thank you.
Well, we have really enjoyed our partnership with you, and we're looking forward to hearing some great little reminiscent Kentucky song, classic.
Yeah, would you like to hear it?
Yes.
Yes.
Are we at that time?
I think we are. Everybody have a glass in hand and maybe a handkerchief next to the eyes.
All right. Well, if you all haven't seen the commercial yet that Woodford produced, it's really beautiful, and I was lucky enough to get to record it live on the turf in an empty Churchill Downs, and it was so surreal and melancholy, but also encouraging, because all of us are doing the right thing. We're healthy at home right now, taking care of our family and our friends. Elizabeth, you got to be safe right now for your little ones. So we're doing the right thing, and it's a little sad to mourn the absence of a tradition, but here's a toast to all you all. And here is Kentucky's state song, My Old Kentucky Home. Where the sun shines bright on my old Kentucky home, is summer the people are gay. The corn tops ripe and the fields are all in bloom, and the birds make music all the day. The young folks roll on the little cabin floor, all happy and merry and bright. By and by, hard times come a knocking at my door, and my old Kentucky home, good night. Oh, weep no more, my lady. Oh, weep no more today. We will sing one more song for the old Kentucky home, for the old Kentucky home far away. Oh, weep no more, my lady. Whoa, weep no more today. We will sing one more song for the old Kentucky home, for the old Kentucky home far away. Take it away, Elizabeth.
Nobody wants to hear me sing, but I am tearing up right now. So good. So good. It gets me every time.
And could you tell everyone who the author of that beautiful song was and how long ago it was written?
Oh, sure. That song was written by Stephen Foster. It was written a long time ago. I wish I could tell you the exact date, but it was an interesting time. It was a great time of change, and by great I mean significant, profound change. It was the end of slavery, and it was actually written in a context where they were mourning the loss of the life that they'd lived, the quote normalcy that they had achieved. So in many ways, it's similar to the time that we're in right now, where we're experiencing a great change. All of our normals are changing. Thankfully, we've progressed a long way since then. And I think that the core of that song, of longing for something lost, is something that Kentuckians all over the world feel right now. There's, of course, the folks that are here that are mourning the absence of this tradition, but there's also folks that are, expats in different part of the world that are just like, I miss my Kentucky. And I think that is the common thread, and it's probably why this song has continued to be a tradition at events, has continued as our state song in Kentucky, because it's not really as much about the time that it was written, because the words have changed since then. It's more about the feeling that you get when you live in Kentucky, when you participate in the Kentucky communities, and when you experience all the incredible natural beauty that's in our state. Every time, this time of year, I get asked to play the song a lot. And every time I play it, I try to connect deeply with that feeling of longing for home.
Yes.
So well put. And there's a couple songs, I guess I'll call one a song. You'll hear My Old Kentucky Home, which we traditionally sing prior to the Kentucky Derby at the track. 140 to 170,000 people singing. It's the only time I sing in the whole year because no one can hear how bad I sing. But we all sing. And then Steve Butterman playing the Call to the Post. I mean, you can't beat those two. So when you hear those two, it's today. It's the 2nd of May. It's the first Saturday in May, of course. That brings a tear to all of our hearts.
Yeah.
Ben said that's our state song. And the home it was written at, Federal Hill in Bardstown, is a state shrine. And it's still preserved. So anybody, when you visit Kentucky, come along the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, come and visit Woodford Reserve, of course, you can stop at my old Kentucky home because it's our old Kentucky home.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, it's about spring and it's connected to this time and place. But this is an opportunity for new traditions, whether that is, the way that we connect, which we're doing here on the internet, or the ways we make cocktails in the fall. I mean, this is, we're lucky enough to get 2 derbies this year.
That's very
We get to.
yeah. We get to do this all over Princess Edward. So Ben, thank you for being with us today, and thank you for that wonderful commercial that is really turning hearts and minds. We really
well, it's my pleasure. Thank you all for including me.
Yeah.
and
Thank you.
and to everyone, Elizabeth and I are going to say goodbye with a toast. A toast to the future, a toast to September and beyond, September 5th. And as Ben so beautifully sang, the sun shines bright on our Kentucky home. May it shine in your alls as well.
Yes.
Cheers, y'all.
Cheers.